Here's the paradox of championship development. Sometimes the losses teach you more than the wins ever could. Tuesday night in Houston, the 30-13 San Antonio Spurs, sitting second in the Western Conference, just got handed their most valuable lesson of the season. After building a 16-point lead and dominating for 30 minutes, they watched Kevin Durant's Rockets flip the script entirely, outscoring them 29-14 in the fourth quarter to steal a 111-106 victory. Victor Wembanyama's 14 points on brutal shooting. Julian Champagnie's explosive 27 getting wasted. Stephon Castle literally breaking a rim during warm-ups, then playing through thumb pain. But here's what the final score doesn't reveal. This might be exactly the wake-up call that accelerates their championship timeline. Let's break down why. What's up, Spurs fans? Welcome back to Spurs. Quick news, quick, sharp, and all about the silver and black. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into what Monday night's collapse in Houston actually reveals about this team's championship timeline. Before we jump in, drop your city in the comments so we know where the Spurs family's tuning in from. First, let's put this loss in proper context. The Spurs dropped to 30-14 and are still the second seed in the Western Conference, behind only Oklahoma City. This is a team that opened the season with a franchise-best 5-0 start, has 7 different players who've led them in scoring during winning streaks, and is playing championship-level basketball months ahead of any reasonable timeline. But Tuesday night revealed something critical about what separates conference contenders from championship threats. San Antonio led 70-60 at a halftime. They extended that lead to 16 in the third quarter. And then, in a 12-minute masterclass of playoff intensity, Houston's Kevin Durant-led squad outscored them 29-14 in the fourth and walked away with the win. The shooting collapse was brutal, 7 of 28 from the field in the final frame, 25%, including an ice-cold 0 for 13 from three-point range. That's not just missing shots, that's a system breaking down under pressure exactly when championship teams need to execute. But here's the championship education angle nobody's discussing yet. This is the perfect time for these lessons to land. Not in May during a playoff series, not when everything's on the line. Right now, in January, when there's time to study the tape, make adjustments, and level up before games truly matter. Mitch Johnson said it best post-game, Houston did a heck of a job the whole second half, ramping up their physicality, ramping up their level of aggression. Translation? The Spurs just got a playoff intensity preview, and now they know exactly what closing games against elite teams actually requires. Do you think early season adversity like this strengthens championship cores, or does it plant doubt? Type makes us stronger, or creates pressure below. Now here's the perspective shift that changes everything about how we interpret this loss. Houston didn't just get hot in the fourth quarter. They exposed a championship-level adjustment that the Spurs haven't mastered yet, and that's actually great news for their development timeline. Watch what happened. The Rockets systematically ramped up their defensive physicality in the second half, forcing San Antonio's young guards off their preferred spots and daring someone other than Wemby to beat them in crunch time. Mitch Johnson confirmed it. Our whole team across the board, we got rushed, we got pushed off our spots. Here's the tactical chess match nobody's discussing. Victor Wembanyama, who's averaging 24.5 points, 10.9 rebounds, and 2.6 blocks while shooting a career-best 51.6% from the field, got held to just 14 points on 5 of 21 shooting. More importantly, 0 blocks for only the third time all season, snapping his incredible 101 game block streak. But this wasn't some magical defensive scheme Houston invented overnight. As Johnson admitted, Houston's played this brand of defense since we've had Victor, so I don't think it's anything new. Translation, the Spurs knew this was coming. They'd seen it before, and they still couldn't solve it when the intensity peaked in the fourth quarter. Here's why that's actually a positive development marker. You can't solve what you haven't experienced under pressure. The 2014 championship Spurs lost to Miami in the 2013 finals before figuring out how to execute in crunch time. The 2024 Celtics got embarrassed by the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals before building the toughness that led to Banner 18. Meanwhile, Reed Sheppard, Houston's rookie, buried 12 of his 21 points in that final frame, hitting 4 of 7 from the field and 3 of 5 from deep in just 11 minutes of fourth quarter action. That's not luck. That's a young player feeding off defensive intensity and capitalizing when veterans create the space. And speaking of veterans, Kevin Durant's gravity throughout this game was masterful. He didn't need to dominate the box score. His mere presence forced defensive rotations that freed up Alperen Sengun, 2013-9, and Sheppard to execute. But here's the twist that tells you everything about where the Spurs are heading. Wait until you hear what the core actually learned from this collapse. Because Wembanyama's post-game quote reveals championship maturity beyond his years. If Mitch Johnson shows this tape in practice, should he emphasize what went wrong, or what championship teams do differently in these moments? Comment, show the mistakes, or show the solution. Curious what approach you'd take. And if you're appreciating this deeper breakdown, hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel grow. Now let's talk about the most underrated development from Tuesday night. And it has nothing to do with X's and O's. Victor Wembanyama, a 21-year-old all-star starter averaging 24.5 points, 10.9 rebounds, and leading the NBA with 2.6 blocks per game, didn't hide from the truth after this loss. Listen to what he said. Same as usual, blowing 15-plus point leads. The good thing is, we're all onto the problem. We're all putting our minds into it. But we're conscious it is a problem. That's not deflection. That's not excuse-making. That's a franchise centerpiece who just became the first French player ever named as an all-star starter, holding himself and his teammates accountable in real time. And Julian Champagnie, who dropped 27 points, including 20 in the first half on 8 of 16 shooting from deep, echoed the same ownership. I don't think we stuck to what we were supposed to stick to. The loss is what bothers me the most, despite everything else. Think about what that reveals. This is a team that knows what went wrong. They're not searching for answers. They're not confused about the solution. They just haven't executed consistently enough in late-game pressure situations yet. And here's why that's actually a positive championship signal. Awareness is the first step towards solving elite-level problems. You can't fix what you refuse to acknowledge. Meanwhile, Stefan Castle, the reigning 2024-25 Rookie of the Year, now averaging 17.1 points and a team-leading 7.0 assists, showed exactly the kind of mental toughness championship cores are built on. After accidentally breaking the rim during warm-ups and delaying tip-off by 30 minutes, he then played through a sore left thumb that got bumped in the third quarter, grimaced, stayed in the game, and buried a three-pointer minutes later. Mitch Johnson's assessment? He's obviously a tough kid. That's not just physical toughness. That's championship DNA. There's one aspect of this loss that actually validates everything the Spurs have been building for the past 3 years. I'll reveal it in just a moment. Would you rather have a young core that acknowledges problems honestly, or one that makes excuses but stays confident? Drop honesty or confidence below. Let's be completely honest about what Tuesday night revealed, both the foundation that's already elite and the edge that still needs sharpening. The championship-level foundation. Julian Champagnie is proving to be exactly the three-point weapon this roster needed. His 27 points on 8 of 16 shooting from deep, including 20 in the first half, marks the 6th time this season he's drained 5 or more threes in a game. When Champagnie gets hot, he's a genuine game changer who can single-handedly swing momentum and force defensive rotations. More importantly, the Spurs dominated for 30 minutes of this game. They built a 16-point lead twice. Their offensive execution in the first half was sharp, confident, and exactly what championship-caliber teams produce against elite competition. The championship gap. But here's where playoff basketball reveals the difference between contenders and champions. Fourth quarter mental and physical toughness when the intensity reaches playoff levels. San Antonio got rushed. They got pushed off their spots. And when Houston dialed up the pressure for 12 straight minutes, the Spurs couldn't match that sustained intensity. Mitch Johnson's assessment was surgical. I don't think it was one thing that continued to hurt us, other than just some toughness, mental, physical, all across the board in a lot of ways that got to us. It snowballed, and they rode the momentum and finished the job. That's not a talent gap. That's an experience gap. And experience is the one asset you can only acquire through reps, especially painful ones exactly like this. Here's the silver lining. They're learning this lesson in January, not June. What holds the Spurs back most in crunch time? Mental toughness, offensive execution, or defensive intensity? Drop your take. Best comments get featured next episode. So where does this actually leave the Spurs in the bigger championship picture? At 30-14, they're still the second seed in the Western Conference. This loss stings, but it's also the exact kind of championship education that separates teams who peak early from dynasties who learn how to close. The immediate test? Thursday night at Utah, giving San Antonio an instant opportunity to demonstrate they've absorbed the lesson. And if you know anything about this organization's DNA under Mitch Johnson, you know they don't stay down for long. But here's what I'm watching over the next month. Can the Spurs solve the fourth quarter execution puzzle before it becomes a playoff liability? Because right now, teams have a blueprint. Ramp up the physicality, force Wemby off his spots, make someone else beat you in crunch time when the game tightens up. If San Antonio cracks that code, this 16-point collapse in Houston becomes one of the most valuable learning experiences of their championship timeline. And if what I've been hearing about a potential defensive adjustment Mitch Johnson's been experimenting with in practice actually shows up on Thursday, we might witness the moment this young core makes the leap from conference contender to legitimate championship threat. Stay tuned. If this breakdown gave you something new to think about, something beyond the box score, Smash that like and share it with a Spurs fan who needs a dose of championship perspective. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens Thursday night in Utah, especially if that defensive adjustment I mentioned actually shows up. This team is 30-14 for a reason. They're not broken. They're being forged. Until next time, stay silver and black, stay sharp, and remember, every championship core earns its stripes through losses like this. Peace.